I'm a machine and you should trust me. The future of non-human identity. Dwayne McDaniel is handling that for us. Is Dwayne here or is he stepped out? Or is he there? Oh, there he is. Thanks. Thanks. Yay. Let's hand over to Dwayne. Thanks.
Give it up for Dimitri, everybody. Awesome. Thank you all for being here. And wow, I can't believe it's already here. I can't believe that B-Sides Las Vegas is already snuck up on us. It feels like it was just a couple months ago that I was so exhausted after the best week of Hacker Summer Camp I've ever spent in my life. And here we are again. And I'm so honored and privileged to be here. I'm also speaking tomorrow, and I'm just profoundly grateful to be here. I just kind of want to say that up front. If you want these slides, I highly recommend it because I talk fast. I have 87 of them, and I have 45 minutes. I don't know how to pare down, not to be ironic, but I don't know how to pare down things. I miss Pear. I wish he was here this year. So the tiny URL, that's where you can get them. I don't QR code things, so just tiny URL, preview if you want. That's why I like their service. You can preview things. With that, let's get going. I need a volunteer who is willing to do a stupid little thought experiment with me. Just raise your hand. You don't have to get up. Just somebody, audience. Anybody? Right there, front row, since you raised your hand first. All right, ring, ring. You pick up your phone. Hi, this is your power company, and it's summer. If you stop using as much electricity, we're gonna give you a discount on your phone bill. Here's a 1-800 number. You can check it on the website. Give us a call back if you got any questions. Would you trust that phone call? I would, because I get that phone call all the time. I called them back one time. It's like, hey, is this for real? I'm like, yeah, we give discounts for using less power in the summer. Makes sense. It's like, but there's like, it's plausible, right? There's a plausibility to that overall. Versus, ring, ring.
Hello.
Congratulations, you've won an all-expenses-paid trip to the island dream of your choice. All we need to get started is your credit card to hold your reservation, sir.
No, thank you.
Yeah, you wouldn't trust that. Your gut instincts are dead right. And thank you for being brave. Here is a home copy of a game I made called Spot the Secrets. It's an exercise. We can talk about it later. See, that's what you get for being brave, people. I also have prizes later, so be aware. So that's a human. Humans have this fundamental built-in BS detector that says, wait a minute, something don't sound right. Or, wait a minute, you gave me something that sounds a little too good to be true, but I can verify that. There's a number. It matches what I can find online. I can call it back. Huh, okay. I will trust that based on I can verify it. Computers don't work that way. If I am a person that writes a API request that says, give me all the users, and the bearer token checks out, guess what? That resource is going to give me all the users because the bearer token checked out. There's no MFA, there's no gut check. And that's the fundamental difference between a human and a non-human. Humans aren't just a series of running processes, and for our intents and purposes, non-humans are. Why am I giving a talk about non-humans? Well, because in 2022, CyberArk said, hey, we're outnumbered in the identity factor by non-humans by about 45 to 1. For every human you need to authenticate, there are 45 non-humans that have some kind of authentication mechanism going on that gets to a resource or something. Here's 2025. We think it's closer to 100, but we don't really know. Research says it's somewhere between 70 and 150, depending on which report you read. There's a bunch floating out there because a lot of people are obsessed with this right now. But we live in the world of agentic AI now. And I don't know about you, but I have never seen us deploy this much stuff this fast in my entire life. But again, I come from old school days of like Drupal and FTP, where you rolled out once every 3 weeks. That was considered really fast. I remember 6 months was like, hey, that's pretty normal to release rate. Now it's like, you're not releasing every 3 seconds? Like, what's wrong with you? But what are we releasing? We're releasing more of these. So that's why I'm giving this talk, is can we get a handle on this? Can we get ahead of this? And I think the answer is probably, but we got to act, and we got to act quick, and we got to figure out how to talk to each other about this. So briefly, I'm Dwayne. I came here from Chicago. This is, like I said, my third one of these, probably my 150th talk in the security space over the last couple of 3-4 years of my life. I help people figure stuff out. That's my entire mission in life. If I can help you today, I'll be doing my job. Check out my repo podcast, the security repo podcast. We handle everything you can think about in security, from red teaming to blue teaming to people just getting started, to 20-year veterans, Jason Haddix to Tanya Janka, to people you never heard of who I met in my local community and I thought they had a really cool story. Hit me up on Instagram or not Instagram, sorry, LinkedIn, or just email me. Blue Sky also works. I'm on the socials, Mastodon, not X anymore for obvious reasons. Let's move on. Oh, I also work at Get Guardian. That will come up later, but it's not really here to talk about. If you didn't get a sticker earlier, by the way, with the Get Guardian thing, I do have more stickers with that owl on it. Hit me up afterward. Happy to give you some. All right, so let's get back to why I think this is important. So last year, CyberArk came out with this report, and I promise I do not work for CyberArk. I promise I just like the research. They said 93% of organizations had one or more identity-related breaches in the past year. So what does that mean, identity-related? This actually threw me for a loop, and I had to go do some thinking and research and actually talk to some people I know over at CyberArk. I won't name drop, but they helped me figure it out. Like, it's anytime someone assumes the identity of someone else to do something. That's it. If you're assuming a human identity, that means you're taking over their account and you're acting on their behalf. Here's a fun one from back in May when I first was putting these slides together for a different version of this talk. This just happened to happen. So a paid WordPress theme just let anybody reset passwords, including on admin accounts, which means you could then act as the admin and do whatever you wanted on the account. So that's a classic, human takeover. Phishing's another one where we got your account and we got into your 360 mailbox or whatever you call it. We got your Gmail. We're acting as you. But again, 45 to 1 in 2022 and 100 to 1 right now, we think, estimate. And this is much far more likely. I am assuming the identity of this non-human entity to do something. Well, this entity was supposed to be set up to go and pull images or go and check things into GitHub. Now I can use it to delete repos or clone those repos and send them anywhere I want, or exfil data, or do things like this. Just a couple examples that if you got the slides and the speaker notes, there's links to these actual articles. But we'll steal an API key and get in and do whatever we want. As an attacker, I love this because I don't have to know anything about exploiting vulnerabilities. I don't have to know 0 days. I barely have to be functionally literate to put an API key in the right place on a CLI call. I just do. We got to remember that we're not dealing with humans for the most part anymore when it comes to identity. So all the conversations we have about IAM, PAM, passkeys, FIDO, all awesome stuff. I am for passkeys a zillion %. I can convince someone to put their thumb on a screen and unlock a stupid long number that they'll never see that gets rotated on the regular behind the scenes way more often than I can convince someone to download Authenticator. I personally don't like Authenticator, even though I know it's like mandatory. I need to use it. It's just like, man, I got to use Authenticator. Ah, God dang it. Pull out my phone. So when we say non-human, the fundamental problem with that is it's like saying there's only two things in the whole world, a potato and not a potato. It's not really that helpful. So there's humans and non-humans. What do we really mean by that? Well, it could mean the floor. It could mean the Wi-Fi network. It could mean a car. It could mean an IoT device. It could mean a lot of things. I work in the world of application security. I just do. I'm an OWASP fanboy. I'll get to them in a second. But I really, really, really like the IETF's, the Internet Engineering Task Force definition. I'll talk about Whimsy a little bit later, just briefly, not going to get into the depths of it, but they have a really succinct concept of workload. It is a running instance of software executing something for a purpose. That's it. It can run for seconds, it can run for years, part of a larger system normally, but it needs to communicate with those other parts of the system. OWASP, on the other hand, came out with this definition back in January or December and said, what we mean is part of a larger application, something that needs to be identified. It's not a human. They go on to say, well, this is often associated with secrets. It needs to have an authentication mechanism to go from I can't do work to now I have the data and I can do the work. Makes sense. We got to authenticate to do stuff. And before I go any further, I just need to make a caveat. I've been talking about this stuff for so long and so much that the words token, credential, secret, API key, password, database connection URL all mean the exact same thing in my head. And I know there's semantic differences, and I apologize up front, but I'm going to say secret and credential interchangeably for the rest of this, and I don't know I'm doing it. So what I mean by that is this. And yes, we can get to a world of PKI and short-lived JOTs, and hopefully I'll get to that a little bit later and get away from this. But by and large, when I'm talking about secrets, I'm talking about that problem of we hard-coded a thing, a string, and said, yep, that's how we're going to connect. The obvious implication is if anybody finds this code, then they can use that exact same string to do whatever the hell they want. This comes from about 2 months ago now when I asked ChatGPT, like, give me an example API call, like that in a Python script. And here's what it told me to do. Notice how it didn't say call an environment variable. Notice how it didn't say call into the vault. No, it's like your access token here. Now, I have been doing development. I got a gray beard. I've been around for a while and know, like, okay, that's silly, but it's telling me, okay, generally this is how it's sculpted. Do most people know that? Do most people know that this is a dumb idea?
Not based on what I'm seeing.
Yeah, not based on what I'm seeing either. I'm not against AI. I totally love AI. I use ChatGPT almost daily for various things. But I kind of use I use Wikipedia for reference for non-critical stuff. Like, sure, it got a little wrong, but that's cool. I was just playing around with an idea anyways, bouncing ideas off. But if I'm going to put something in production, it better pass all my other tests, and it better meet the standards that I'm going to put in production. And my worry with all of these assist bots, co-pilots and whatnot, are that we're not having that human conversation. But that's a whole other talk I give, and I'm going to get off that horse. We know that this problem of people hard-coding credentials is getting way worse because, well, we can just look in public to see this, which is a self-feeding system because guess where all of these co-pilots and whatnot are being trained on? This. And on here, my company puts out this report every year. This isn't a sales pitch. Please go download this report. You can do it over Tor. I promise we're not going to ask for anything from you. We just want this information out there. It's a free PDF. Just go click the button. We don't ask for nothing. Again, do it through an anonymous window if you want. So here's game time. For a fabulous prize, we're going to play a Price is Right kind of game. How many secrets do you think we found added to GitHub? And if you already know, do not answer. How many secrets do you think we found added to GitHub Public just in the year 2024? From the beginning of the year 2024 to the end of the year 2024, how many secrets do you think we found in public? And I need hands. Otherwise, this isn't going to work. And it's Price is Right style.
50 million.
50 million.
500,000.
500,000.
100 million.
100 million. 1 million. 60 million. $1, Bob. Other than that. 1 million 4.
Infinity plus 1.
Infinity plus. Wow, that'd be a cool number. Well, the good news is it's not as high as some of you were guessing, but it is 23.77 million. So who got the closest? You're gonna have to be honest with me because I don't remember. No, 50 is over. You said 1 million. All the way in the back, I can't throw it that far, but you want a stuffed octopus. It's not stuffed. A crocheted octopus that's red team plus blue team put together. The two materials. I crocheted on the plane. Come up later, and we'll get it. I do that for that specific purpose of, wow, that's kind of a fun way to break terrible news. Because this is not good. And it is like 4.6% of all repos. So you can do this too. You can play this game too. You can just go to api.github.com/events and look at the feed. It's public. It's in the name of the product. You can just read the feed. Go look at every commit, scan it for a secret. Or anything that becomes public that was private, scan it for a secret. 25% growth year over year. And we have changed methodologies, but even accounting for the old methodologies, it still grew 25%. And the report goes into great detail of how we did the methodologies on it. The most horrifying part of this to me, also just to finish the thought, we do send an email immediately upon seeing a secret to the committer. So please sign your commits with actual emails you check, please, because there are good people in the world that are trying to say, hey, you might have done this by accident. Please don't do that. We're one of those people. The horrifying part to me was we do validation checks on all these secrets. That's not the horrifying part. If we can validate, we validate and say, hey, does this work or not? It's non-intrusive call into the system, say, hey, does this work or not? And if it does, we say, well, that's a valid secret. We went back to 2022, all the data we've had then from those findings, it said, okay, all the ones we found valid, let's take a subset. So we found 11,000, we just took a random 11,000 that were valid in 2022, retested them in January 2025, and 70% came back as still valid. Yeah. Which kind of makes the data from Verizon's DBIR make a little more sense. I don't know, who has not read the Verizon DBIR this year? You can be honest. It's free. It's an awesome report. It's written by humans for humans. It's the best 2-hour read you'll have this year. The press release is good, but there's jokes all throughout. My favorite one, I think, is on page 14 or 18. It's like, and just like in the land of the Fae, names have meaning here. It's footnote 13 is a callback to footnote 11 from the previous year. Yeah, fun. Anyway, I like talking about the fun parts because 22% of all initial access vectors for breaches is credential abuse. People finding these keys and just getting in. Exploitation of vulnerabilities is close second. Phishing's falling down. Yeah, well, wait a minute. Phishing is how you get human access. This is definitely riding on the backs of web infrastructure. People are attacking the non-humans because there's just so many more of them, and we have secured them so poorly, and there's no MFA, and there's overscoped, and they live forever by default, and we see the numbers for how fast rotation happens. Here's Verizon's independent thing. They say 94 is the number of average days after the breach is known. So we put out this other report. Again, CyberArk, don't work for them, but they keep popping up. We did a report with them back in 2024, and we asked I'll put that back up for a second. If you want a voice practitioner, we call it. We asked over 1,000 IT professionals a bunch of questions, and 75% said, hey, we got strong confidence in our secret management capability. And then we said, how long did it take to remediate a secret? And they're like, we think about 27 days. Nope. We're pretty sure that's not right. Yeah. And then same exact people said only 40% of developers reported follow security best practices. So I don't know. This is survey data. You can trust it only so far. So what do we do? That's the horrifying first half of the talk. Apologies for making people uncomfortable or scaring people. That's why I do it with a little bit of levity. What do we do? Well, I can't overstress this part enough. Be like this little bird. Breathe. Eat. Remember, you are human. You are a person, first and foremost. If we lose sight of the fact that all of security is about human beings, including you, including your health and mental health, we've lost the game. We can fight 0 days until we're dead. We're never going to win security. All we can do is keep supporting each other. B-sides is really important for that, getting together and seeing each other face to face. You're no longer just a screen name here. You're no longer just an anonymous person out there fighting the good fight as well. We're here together, and that means something, God damn it. So you take care of you first. Put your oxygen mask on first. Breathe. Realize, look, we can do our best effort. We can fight this fight together, and we can make the world a better, secure place so developers can go home to their kids and not have to worry about this at 3 a.m. That we can have jobs tomorrow because we did it right enough. That the attackers got to us and said, wow, all the easy paths are hard, not here, are here. All the easy paths are blocked. I'm gonna have to do some backflips to get in here. I can move somewhere else. But breathe first. And then look to OWASP. I'm OWASP fanboy, so forgive me. But they put out this back again, December, January, this came out, the OWASP non-human identity top 10 risk something. Let's look it up. That's a lot of stuff, and I'm not going to laundry list it to you. I have a talk tomorrow where we're going to go through this a little more in depth about how to talk to developers about all this stuff. But I think it basically falls into these 3 broad categories that we really have to get a handle on. One of them is really hard, and it's going to be the challenge. I'm going to challenge everyone to walk out of this room and think about how to go about the rest of your job and the rest of your career. The second one's pretty straightforward, and that's the one I'm going to spend the most time on because that one's the easiest one to talk about, and, well, I like talking about things that are easy. The last one is only going to get more complex, but good news, there are tools on the way, and tools aren't the solution for everything, but tools can help. Tools are part of the solution. So I say 3 pillars of NHI governance on this screen. I'll say something else later, but I firmly believe this is how all good programs work. I've always believed this, and I always will believe this. It's a virtuous cycle where you raise awareness with the right people, make a plan, put processes in place to say, this is how we're going to do this. Then, and only then, go out and acquire the tools you need to get the job done. And once you have the tools, train the people on how to use those tools properly, using the processes you set forth, and then refine the whole thing. In a virtuous cycle, a feedback loop, if you will, a DevOps, an agile loop, to say, this is how we're going to solve this, and keep refining and keep refining and keep refining. But if you don't start with raising awareness, getting people on the same page of what we need to get done, it ain't going to get done. And that comes down to ownership. You ever want to scare an IT team? Walk in and say, who owns Active Directory? The answer should be somebody. The answer should be a very specific point person in the company. Who owns PAM? Who owns Okta? Go to your HR teams, like, who owns onboarding? And they go, well, what do you mean? Maybe they have an answer. Hopefully they have an answer. But if we go through this list, it's like, all right, devs introduce these NHIs a lot. They put the calls to the APIs. They have to authenticate to things. DevOps builds the infrastructure that's all the pieces talking to each other. Do they own it? Well, they created it. Devs have a pretty high turnover rate, so you hope they're still around. DevOps, hopefully operations does have a plan for contingency on this stuff, right? Well, guess who goes to jail if you get a breach because of something they did? Not these guys. Maybe it's the exec team. And the exec team ultimately is responsible for everything in your company. I firmly believe that. It's their job, but their job's also to manage risk. And security, in their opinion, is just one more risk and a whole litany of sea of risk. Maybe it's your IAM owner. Maybe you have this person. Maybe you're big enough to. IANS, the group that studies executive pay, I forget what this stands for, but IANS said from stage a couple years ago that it's not until companies hit about the 5 billion revenue mark that they're big enough to justify having somebody that owns IAM outright that reports to a C-level. So it'd be a CISO or the CIO or the CTO or maybe CEO or maybe a board. But this person should exist. Somebody should be responsible to drive the conversation forward so they don't maybe outright own everything. But unfortunately, it means everybody owns it, which means nobody owns it right now. And this is the conversation that's hard. All right, how do we rally this? How do we get budget for this? How do we improve this across the team? Because this is how they're getting in. We can spend all the money on all the EDX, EDR, all the endpoint solutions, all the lockdown of everything, all the technical solutions in the world. But if we're just throwing out the passwords for all of these NHIs we're creating at a rapid rate because the AI keeps telling us to do it, why? Why do we even bother? If I can log in, I don't care about your firewall. So how do we have that conversation, drive it forward? Oh. I think it does boil down to having the conversation of like, what even is ownership here? I like Ann Lander's version of it. She stole it from somebody else, but that's where I read it first, so I'll credit Ann Landers here. I won't read the whole list to you, but open it, close it, turn it on, turn it off. What's your sunset policy on this API? How long does this secret live? Who wrote down those questions? Where is that policy? Where's the governance model around it? And that's the challenge I want everybody to go out here thinking. Like, all right, technically, we can do this, but who drives it? How do I have that conversation with the rest of my team? That's all I'm going to harp on today. Come back to my talk tomorrow, and we talk way more in detail about how to have that conversation with developers and drive them. Let's talk about the easier one, the one with a very straightforward set of technical solutions that I'll speed up now. How do we get DevOps and dev people to stop doing this? Because if you just send them a ticket, say, all right, you leaked a secret, rotate it. Guess what's going in the code? The exact same thing that I just did because there's no other better methodology. So I'm going to talk long term, and I'm going to talk short term. In the long term, we have solutions. We are going to move things to the world of identity, federated identities and ephemeral secrets. And we're already doing it. We've been doing it for a decade. Google's been doing this for a decade. It's called SPIFFY, Secure Production Identity Framework for Everyone. They don't call it SPIFFY internally. Google has something else that they call it internally. But this idea came out about 7-8 years ago from a meetup happened at Netflix. And Spire is the open source actual implementation you can go download right now. And if you're hand rolling your own workloads right now and your own internal systems, this is what you're going to want to do. Way too much to SPIFFY to cover in this short of time, but I'm going to give you resources. I'm going to give you the quick overview. We can cryptographically prove a bunch of stuff at the time a workload is created. We can do secure boot. We can do trusted boot. We can know all the facts we need to know that this thing we spun up is the thing we spun up, and it's provably true. If that's true, we can then inject with an API a credential that says, you are you. This is your identification. And we can use that for authentication throughout distributed systems. That's kind of it. If I go to a gateway and say, here's my credential, you can say, yep, that's your credential. I trust that certificate authority. Cool. Or say, let me go double check that real quick. And now we let it in, and then we worry about authorization as a separate mechanism because those are two separate things, and I'm not going to get into authorization today. You can federate the certificate authorities. You can do really cool stuff with this, but it's the idea of namespacing and allow listing with PKI. There's a whole book about this. It's one of the best technical books I read in the last few years of my life. spiffy.io/book. It's free. It's 198 pages. If you're like, I ain't got time for a book. Sorry, that should have taken another slide out. If you're like, I ain't got time for a book. Well, go watch this talk from Cloud Native Security Con last year. The story of Crush. It's really, really good. And everything you need to know about this with some working and implementation details, much deeper than I get into today. You're like, well, that's cool, but that's cloud native. What about the rest of us? Well, that's where the IETF comes in. Does anybody not know what the IETF is? So I honestly didn't before a couple years ago. IETF, Internet Engineering Task Force, takes care of things like, TCP, IP, HTTP, HTML, like the actual standards body that says this is what this means. Well, they're working on something called WIMSI, Workload Identity in Multi-System Environments, which is basically the ideas of SPIFFY applied globally at a better scale. We're in draft 4 right now, and there's a real large conversation going on in the email group, and it's like sped up in the last few weeks as we march toward one of their big events. You can go read the drafts. It's awesome. That's where this workload thing comes from. And it's basically what I explained with SPIFFY, but applied to pretty much everything. There's going to be a WIMSI namespace instead of a SPIFFY namespace, but their conversation's ongoing on what that actually looks like. And if you want to get involved in that, now's the time. You're like, okay, well, how far off in the future is this stuff? This is like how we're going to do this in a few years. Great. Well, you can do it right since May in Kubernetes. As of Kubernetes 1.33, this is how we can do image pulls now. You can set up a service account token for credential providers that's short-lived, automatically rotated tokens for service accounts if the credential communicates and is opt-in receiving service account. I'm not going to read the whole thing. This is for image pulls. So basically you say, here's my token that says I am me. Cool, I'll swap that for a very short-lived thing to do the image pull. Everybody wins. This is already popping up. This is how we're going to do things in the future. So the idea of a long-lived credential that says I am allowed to do these things is going to be separated out from here is a rotated short-lived thing that says you are you that's provable through a certificate authority, and that's how you're going to authenticate in. And then we're going to worry about authorization as a separate piece, and that's what you're going to trade for once you're past the token, once you're past a zone. I'm oversimplifying a few things here. Go read the standards, go read the docs. That's how we're going to do that in long term. And developers are just going to think about namespacing, certificate authorities. I promise you in the next 3 to 4 years, that's where we're going with it. But in the short term, how do we stop this? Well, there's this magic trick you can kind of pull off. If we think, we have all these non-human identities, all these things we need to account for. And right now, we need a way to identify them. We need to IAM, identity access management, all of these things. And in the meantime, we have given them all a unique identifier in the form of a secret that exists just to let it do the thing. What if we said these are equal? If we can just map out all of the secrets, then we have therefore mapped out all of our NHIs. Now, it's a little bit of kabuki theater. Is that exactly 100% true? No. Is it a practical approach to how do we get out of this hell in the short term? Yes, because I've seen a lot of people do this. The plan then becomes very simple. It's just these steps. Find all your secrets, properly store them. Get better developer tooling, continually secret scan, and then automatically rotate all the secrets once they're properly stored. It starts with finding everything, because that's the first rule of all threat models. If you don't know what it is, you can't protect it. And everybody's kept track of all these NHIs that they've created and all the secrets, right? Right? They definitely didn't like put a giant list out there on plain text, we can hope. Right? No, of course not. But we do know where all of these secrets live because we keep finding them in code and in Jira and config files and Slack and Confluence and secrets.txt and many other places in the world. And we know where those are because they're on our network. And hopefully we can scan our own networks, right? Well, that one I actually do hope I'm right on. We know where these things are. And there are a bunch of tools to do this. Now, I have a personal favorite off this list, but eventually you just want to be able to find all of the secrets. A lot of them match pre-existing patterns with prefixes. A lot of them don't, and you need contextual analysis to figure out how to do that. There's a lot of ways to go about this. Again, I have a personal favorite on this list, but I'm not here to sell you anything specifically, other than the idea of scan for secrets continually. So, okay, we found all of our secrets, and we got this giant list of like, here's our inventory of all the secrets where they're not supposed to be. Well, what do we do next? Well, we put them where they're supposed to be. And here's a very highly accurate architecture diagram of how secret managers work. Basically, a secret manager can store credentials, secrets, whatever, even config, at rest, encrypt it, and then deliver it over the wire when needed, being pulled in just in time to be used. Thank you. And yeah, hopefully you have some centralized reporting on that. Hopefully it's easy enough for developers to use. Good news, if you're all in on one cloud provider, you already won the day. They already have this. This is built in. It's baked in. Is it free? I don't know. Maybe. Hope should be. It isn't, but it should be. AWS actually is trying to get out secrets everywhere, so you can do like AWS Secret Manager for everything. It's still a work in progress. I've heard mixed results, but still, you can do this. If you're on multi-cloud, the hybrid legacy, well, guess what? They sell that. It's called a service that does that. Enterprise Secret Manager is generally the class, but Vault is the general term you hear, even though HashiCorp actually is called Vault. And they all work the general same way. You stuff the secret in there and you give it a path. And then don't worry about the rest of this. This is just an example to like prove that you pulled the secret out. But then the developer, instead of hard coding the secret, the developer says, all right, here's the thing I am calling, and here's the path inside of the thing I'm calling to give me back the secret. Now, there are a few ins and outs and architectural trade-offs you're going to have to make when you do this. And one of the best talks I've ever seen about how to do this blue-green rotation of secrets using a secret manager happened on this stage last year. Kenton, brilliant talk. The link to the talk is in the show notes or in the speaker notes. Go look at it. But basically, rotate as often as you can and do it in a way that doesn't break. He's doing this against satellites, so if they mess up, there's no going back. So they have to very securely do this in a very, very scalable way, or a very robust way. So then you just got on your list of like, all right, so we do this for new systems, greenfield, obviously. Then we do mission critical systems. And then you find all these legacy secrets, like, what does this even go to? And a subset of that's going to be zombies. How many people think they know all of the API endpoints that are still running across your organization? Never had a hand go up. Actually, one guy did. He's like, yeah, we have one API that has 2 endpoints. Like, okay, you gonna pass. But everybody else you got something running. Guess what? If I'm fuzzing, I don't care. I don't care if it still works or not. I'm just gonna fuzz until it does. All right. So how do we get developers to use that stupid long string and then put things in there with a path? That's a hard question because you're trying to slow them down now. In their brain, anything security-wise you're asking them to do slows them down. And guess what? Their boss is yelling at them to go faster. And they're saying, we're going to replace you with AI if you can't produce fast enough. Again, tomorrow I'm going to dig into that a lot more. But in the short term, we got to say, hey, how would you like to go a lot faster? And we give you tools that do that. And that's where security engineers are the greatest heroes in the entire universe. And this is another challenge. If you are a person that has access to developers and you are a person that wants to actually help developers, go sit down and talk to them about their workflows. And the thing that's going to pop up in every conversation is Git. Guaranteed. 97.8% of all developers on Earth use Git daily in their workflows. Why don't we meet them where they are? Because Git has this awesome ability to do scripting. It's called the hooks. Everywhere in the lifecycle, when Git does a thing, is a chance to hook in a tool. So why not give them a tool locally that says, all right, paste your hard-coded credential, try, and let's catch it and say, all right, you can't do that. That exists out of the box right now. A lot of people do that. But then why don't you further the script and say, well, why don't we just go check and see if this already exists in the vault? Oh, it does? Cool. Here's the path. Oh, this doesn't exist in the vault. Let's stuff it in and make up a path for you. That exists sort of out of the box. That takes a little bit of scripting and a little bit of how does the path work. But I've seen that script in action. And then you said, awk, whatever, I don't know, PowerShell tools, to actually swap out the line where they hard-coded the secret with the vault call. Again, that's just pretty simple scripting. And then once everything's committed, if I commit, and this is on the other side, if a commit contains a new call to the vault, rotate that secret automatically. I've seen this script. I've seen the script work. Takes a little work, but possible. But devs gonna be devs. They're gonna get around your tools. So I want to do this at the PR level. Why aren't we doing this at the PR level? This is possible now. The technology has caught up. Maybe you don't know it has, but it has. And I'm here to tell you this. If you want to see open source how we built this a year and a half ago, we called it Brimstone. They called it, CyberArk called it something else, but it's a reference implementation. Would you run this in production? Maybe. Your risks are your risks. A little bit brittle in my opinion, but we've worked on it a lot since then. And again, it's this jumping off point. All of this is just scripting. All of this is just how do you communicate to a vault? And guess what? All of the players are willing to talk to you right now and say, this is how we want to do it. Thank you. So find all secrets, put them in there, continually scan for secrets. People going, you can inject secrets everywhere through the software development lifecycle, and people are going to get around things constantly. So we got to constantly. So this rotation at scale, though, this is actually pretty straightforward. Again, if you're already all in on one provider, these scripts exist. They wrote a Lambda for you already on AWS for every conceivable thing they built ever. And if it doesn't exist, write them and they will write it for you because they want you to do this. And all the script does is just make a new one, test, swap in the new one, test, clean up. That's all these scripts do. There's tons of blogs, there's tons of resources on this. If your team doesn't already have a plan in place to make this happen, this should go way higher in your priority list. Because if I find a hard-coded secret and it expired, it's useless to me. Sure, I can help map your network and whatnot, but I don't really care about that. Doesn't let me immediately in. I'm gonna move on to something else. If you're on one of those other systems, then the question is, can I make a call into that system to let me rotate a secret? The answer should be yes. It's 2025. The answer should be yes. If the answer is no, start asking yourself why you're using that service, because it's 2025. And you should be able to make an API call to rotate a secret. And then all the other players like CyberArk Vault, Doppler, all those guys, all have scripts to help you out with this stuff. They all do. If you can't find what you're looking for, call the rep, call whoever, and say, look, this is what I need. Go to the communities pages. It's out there. People have been working on this. You're not alone. Just to reiterate, there's a lot of stuff on here. I'm not going to go through them all one by one. No time anymore. But it boils down to ownership, and that's the hardest piece. And that's the conversation you're going to need to have. Long-lived secrets, hopefully I've spelled out that it's doable, straightforward. Easy? No. Nothing's easy. But there's straightforward paths here. For technical complexity, I'm going to point into CSPMs. I'm just going to cheap out and say, look, there are tools that can help you do this and training and awareness around all of these things. But we're only making it harder and more difficult on ourselves. Just go pick a tool, go talk to them how to do it. And there is a whole nother class of things around IAM that stretch beyond humans. I was at Identifier earlier this year, and this is like a happening conversation, and there's a bunch of players that say, how do we stretch our IAM platforms not just to handle humans, but for non-humans. And then these guys popped up, the Non-Human Identity Management Group. I'm affiliated with them, full disclosure, but their entire mission is like, how do we tool for this? How do we deal with non-human identity at scale in a governance way and a security way? And they put out lists and a bunch of reviews of all of these players. There's a lot, and this is the fastest growing segment of security I've seen in the last couple years of my life. It's just kind of amazing how fast this is exploding. We're in there too, just full disclosure. But that's where I'm gonna leave you. Go look at what's out there and what they can provide for non-human identity governance. But I ain't worried so much about the governance as much as I am worried about we keep leaking secrets. I am worried that NHIs are outpacing humans by so much, but the fact that we can abuse their access so easily because we keep getting secrets wrong terrifies me when I think about this is happening right now. I have no idea how many robots are on that screen. I've never counted. I just know it's a lot. And I know the Genic AI is pushing this forward really hard. Raise that awareness. Get the right people to having the right conversation. Get that conversation of ownership going. And then you can start building the processes. Then you can pick the tools. Then you can train the people, and then the virtuous cycle can complete. I'm out of time, but I'm Dwayne. I came from Chicago, help people figure stuff out. Hit me up. I am happy to give you anything you need, slide-wise or whatnot. That just goes to our blog. And thanks very much. Slides are, again, at that tiny URL. Thanks very much, everybody.